Hi guys, this is Kim Howerton and this is the Guide to Macros. I'm happy to be here with you to discuss these very important topics, and we're going to start with a quote from my friend Albert. Everything should be made as simple as possible, but no simpler. That is my warning to you to say that this is a long video. The reason is that I think it's super important to actually understand topics rather than just follow instructions. I am bossy, but I also like people to understand things. So we're going to go into some solid detail in this video. If you're looking for a quicker version after you watch this, because I want you to actually get it, but once you watch this once, you can look for my quick guide to macros. So, who is this video designed for? I'm going to say, first of all, a little disclaimer, I am not a doctor. This is not or should not be seen as medical advice. I am a practitioner of the ketogenic diet and somebody who works with clients and also talks with a lot of experts in the field. And this video is based on that knowledge. So this video is for people looking to optimize their body composition, looking for people who are wanting to enjoy life more through a ketogenic diet and potentially reverse insulin resistance issues such as prediabetes, diabetes, PCOS, and bring about much better health. It's not specifically geared towards what people call the therapeutic ketogenic diet, which is, for people looking to treat cancer or neurological illnesses or other diseases with high ketone levels, or it's not geared towards performance athletes in general. So that's who this video is and isn't designed for. So let's dive in with macros. So there are 3 macronutrients. Macronutrients is the longer word from which we derive macros. So there are 3. There are carbohydrates, aka carbs, there's protein, and there's fat. And so let's start by talking about each of these. Every food is either 1, 2, or 3 of these macros, and you're optimizing your ketogenic approach by dialing in the right amount of each of these things. Now, let's start with carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are actually the only non-essential macronutrient in terms of consuming any. You could consume 0 grams of carbohydrates and still be a very healthy individual because our body does a process called gluconeogenesis, which allows us to make all of the essentially blood glucose that we require to be a healthy, happy individual and not intake the kind of carbs we would need otherwise. But some people do really enjoy carbohydrates to increase satiety through texture, flavor, and some micronutrient delivery. We're sticking to the non-starchy carbs, non-sugary carbs. Things like leafy greens are going to be your primary source. So now let's talk about how many carbs. You're going to keep your carb limit to 20 grams. Why 20? It seems to work for everyone. It is true, person to person, we have some fluctuating levels that we can tolerate in terms of our carbohydrates, but I find 20 grams a really safe, good number to stay under. All right, let's talk about protein. So protein scales with our lean body mass. So we're going to need to figure out what our lean body mass is, right? So let's look at this picture. We've got a DEXA scan here. On the left side, we've got the lean body mass, which is made up of our structural elements. That's bones, ligaments, joints, tendons, all that kind of good stuff. And then we've got our muscle mass, right? Between our muscle mass and our structural elements, that is our lean body mass. And then on the other side, in the orange, we have our fat mass. So between the fat mass and the lean body mass, we have our total mass. But for our protein requirement, we're pretty much just concerned with our lean body mass because our fat mass does not really need to be fed more. So how do you find out your lean body mass, you may ask? Well, that was a tongue twister. Okay. So let's look at this. And we're starting from the bottom up. We're looking in that blue box. And you can see that our most accurate methods are getting a DEXA scan. You can also do a bod pod or hydrostatic weighing. But I really like the DEXA scan. It's not very expensive. It's readily available in a lot of places and really quick and painless. So I really recommend people get a DEXA scan. You can simply Google DEXA scan and your town, and you should be able to find one, or the nearest big city. And even if you have to travel a bit to get it, it's not something you're doing very often, and it's really highly recommended. Now, if those are not a possibility, I would say you can use the US Navy calculator. It's available online. You can do it with a tape measure. Nowhere near as accurate as a DEXA scan, but will be within a range of the DEXA scan. There's also calipers, but I tend not to recommend those because if you're very overweight, if you're more than 30% body fat, you're going to have a struggle to get an accurate number. It takes a very, very, very skilled person to give you a good number out of these, especially the more body fat you have. So, barring the DEXA scan or the US Navy calculator, and if you say, Kim, if you don't give me something easier that doesn't require me to leave my house to get, a tape measure or a scan done, I'm not going to do it. To which I'd say, okie dokie. So here's my handy dandy lean body mass approximator. So on average, a woman who is 5 feet tall has a lean body mass of 85 pounds. Now you might note, I'm going to pause. That's on average. That means that we all know people who are string beans versus people who are just naturally muscular, and these people are going to have different lean body masses, even though they're the same height, right? So I can't, and if somebody is very, very heavy, they have a bigger body, they have a bigger lean body mass because they have been weightlifting. It's not because they have so much fat, but because their body is heavy, they're like doing squats all the time, just getting up and out of their chair. Weighted squats, right? So they actually put on more muscle. And so people with more muscle have more lean body mass by definition. So I'm just another plug here for the fact that this is an average, not super specific. But I'll go back to it. So on average, a 5 foot tall woman has about 85 pounds of lean body mass, and you can add 3¼ pounds per every inch someone is over 5 feet, and you can subtract 3¼ pounds for every inch they're under 5 feet. For men, you're going to start with 95 pounds at that 5 foot mark, adding 4¼ pounds per inch over 5 feet, and subtracting 4¼ for each inch under 5 feet. So that's how someplace you can start. So if you have no other method of coming up with your lean body mass, start with the approximator. And then, maybe when you're on a vacation, get a DEXA scan. Ask for one for Christmas. Is your birthday coming up? These are all good uses. Okay, so now we know, I'm just recapping, we know how many carbs to eat, and we know how to come up with our lean body mass, so our next step is going to dive into how much protein should I eat in light of that lean body mass. So here you can see a graphic which gives you the continuum of protein. So the range of protein that one should eat on a ketogenic diet is somewhere between 0.6 grams per pound of lean body mass and 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. So let's break that down to see where you'll fall on this range, because as you can see, there are 3 different colors that break it up into different parts. There are some people, specifically type 2 diabetics or highly insulin resistant people, who find that their blood sugar is affected when they eat too much protein. That when they eat more than a minimal amount of protein, their blood sugar goes up significantly. Those people may need to limit their protein even more than the average person on a ketogenic diet. So for those people, I would say they need to stay above the bottom threshold of 0.6, but they don't need to go above 0.7. Most people find this is a range at which they can be a very healthy individual, and really not spiking that blood sugar like crazy is an important health factor. Now, this is a very specific subset of people. And so you'll know if you're one of these people because you're probably already testing your glucose. And you can see what your glucose response is in regards to protein, and you'll know. But for the average person, even if they have insulin resistance, they will most likely be okay on what I consider the sort of standard range of protein, which is that 0.7 to 0.8 grams per pound of lean body mass. Now, some of you who have been with me for a while might note that this is higher than I used to recommend. I actually used to recommend that lower arena for almost everyone. But I've done more research, I've done more study, and I've looked at specifically One of the main points was Dr. Sarah Hallberg's study with Virta Health. And in terms of their program to reverse type 2 diabetes, one of her main concerns was not getting too much protein, but she found that her participants did exceptionally well at this level as well. And so, that reassured me that it's not going to be a problem for most people. That being said, some people do just fine on the lower end. So when you're going to find the right level for you, where you're going to find the right level for you is about you. But on average, most people seem to very well tolerate that 0.7 to 0.8 gram range. And you'll note there's one more category. We've got 0.9 to 1 gram. And this is specifically geared towards people that are doing significant amount of heavy lifting because they're looking to actually add lean body mass, add muscle, or if somebody has a condition, this is often true of the elderly, where they're not absorbing protein very well. They may need to ingest more protein to fight off the loss of lean body mass that is going on for them. And so you can see from this chart, I don't want to overly complicate it, too late. Most people are probably going to fall in that 0.7 to 0.8 gram range. If you are confused why I gave a range instead of a specific number, just go for 0.75. The reason I give a range is I want you to know that it's okay if you're up and down day to day within that range. I don't want people to get super anal about this. You're just fine right in that range. So here we have some examples. We have some women's, and they're all 100 pounds of lean body mass, which is super convenient for my math, right? All of these women are different heights and different weights and different body fat percentages, but they're all 100 pounds of lean body mass. This is not true of the entire population. I've just picked these examples. So the woman on the left, you can see she is pre-diabetic. I'm sorry, she's diabetic. It says type 2, T2. She's diabetic, and she is 100 pounds of lean body mass. And she is somebody that when she tests her blood sugar, if she eats very much protein in a meal, her blood sugar spikes up. And so she really needs to watch it. This is, not as common in every person, but in her, it definitely happens. And so she's keeping her protein around 60 grams. This is generally high enough to, not significantly impact lean body mass in a negative way, but also not so high that it's affecting her blood sugar. So she's optimizing the protein amount to stay in her safe ranges because, where are the risks? She's trying to find the line in the middle between the risks on one end and the risks on the other. Now, the next woman, the second to the left, is also type 2 diabetic. However, she's not someone that generally finds protein as a big problem for her, and so she's trying to stay about 70 grams. That's where she finds she is most successful. She finds if she eats much more protein than that, she's not finding the weight as easy to manage, but she doesn't find eating less than that is very helpful. So she stays at that 70 gram level, which is the 0.7. The next woman, she's a young woman. She's got a few pounds she wants to lose, but she's generally healthy. Her blood sugars are in healthy range. She's going to be between that 70 and 80, that 0.7 and 0.8 range. And then the last woman is an athlete. She is small but mighty, and she is going to be between a 0.9 and 1 gram per pound of lean body mass, which means she can eat between 90 and 100 grams of protein over the course of her day. And so you can see you optimize who you are, how you best function with that protein for your own body needs. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk about the final macronutrient, which is fat. So you're going to add fat to increase satiety to an appropriate level. Because, I'm really firm on one thing in keto, which is I don't think counting calories is important. I'm not saying that calories don't count. But what I am saying is that we know from historical data, focus on calories screws with your head. That's the technical term. And I'm looking to have people feel happy, healthy, and sane about food. And so we're using fat above and beyond the set amount of protein, the set amount of carbs to fluctuate so that we feel good, but we're also learning to listen to our body. So the number one thing that we're doing is we're getting our carbs under control. That's going to be no more than 20 grams. The number two thing is that we're getting our protein in the right range. Not too much, not too little. And then the third thing is we're adjusting how much fat we add to our diet so that we feel satisfied with our food, which in general means we're eating between a 1-to-1 ratio with protein to a 2-to-1 ratio with protein. Now, when you first start your ketogenic diet, when you first go keto, you are not yet fat adapted. Your body is not yet very good at mobilizing body fat for fuel. And in this stage, you really want to be very, very high fat. You'll feel better. You'll transition better. You'll be happier. You'll be less likely to have cravings, and you'll be less likely to decide it's not worth it and go back to your sad diet. So, my best advice when you first go keto, lots and lots of fat. I think it really helps get you where you need to go. However, over time, you'll find you're less hungry because you become fat adapted. Your body gets good at mobilizing body fat. You've been in ketosis for a while, and your hunger will turn itself down. And as that happens, you eat less fat to go along with it. Now, a lot of times people will ask me, I'm X weeks into keto. Should I stop eating so much fat now? To which I say, where's your hunger at? How hungry are you? Are you listening to your body? Right? So this is very much a way to learn some intuitive eating. I know that sounds woo-woo, but you can't spend the rest of your life tracking macros every second. I think it's super important to track macros, but I don't think it's a lifelong strategy. One day you will need to learn to listen to your body. So you're going to start now. You're going to start learning the process of listening to your body. So when you first start keto, if you're above 2-to-1, if you're like 3-to-1, okie dokie. But probably won't stay that high as you continue along your journey. Part of the reason that this matters is that as your body is mobilizing your own body fat for your fuel, you have essentially the fat that you eat and the fat that's on your body, and those combined are helping fuel your body's needs. Now, I will say, if you are significantly insulin resistant, your ability to mobilize your body fat is somewhat limited. There is sort of a bit of the brakes on in that department. So if you are significantly insulin resistant and you try to drop the fat significantly, you might be super hungry and you might be lethargic and you might not feel good. And that is your body's indication that you're not getting all of the energy it needs from your body fat stores, and you need perhaps a little more dietary fat. However, as you go through your keto process, as the months go by, your insulin resistance will start to resolve itself, will start to come into better balance. And as that happens, you keep questioning your body. How do I feel? And is my fat level appropriate, or am I eating it out of habit? Okay, so quick summary, because I just went over a lot of information. Number 1, carbs. You're limiting those to 20 grams. Number 2, protein. Most people are going to be in the 0.7 to 0.8 gram per pound of lean body mass range. You'll know if you're in any of the outlier categories. Fat is going to be between a 1-to-1 and a 2-to-1 ratio with protein, and hunger is your guide. So, remember how I said it's about grams, not about ratios or percentages? I'm giving you a ratio here, so you're like, aha, Kim is contradicting herself. But it's just to give you a range. Math, numbers, ratios help. But, where you are in that range is about your body's needs, not about, if you're like, oh, I ate 70 grams of protein, I have to hit this exact same number on my fat or I'll break it. And one of the common misperceptions we have often is people will say, oh, I went over on my protein. I ate 100 grams of protein instead of 70 like I'm supposed to. I better up my fat. That it doesn't work that way. It's not about the ratio. It's about the grams. Can't uneat protein by eating more fat. It's just not the way it works. It'd be sad. That would be great, but it's not. Okay, so I know this was a lot of information, but hopefully it became clear by the end in the summary that you can really distill it down to some basic points. But I wanted you to get the process, the thought process along the way of why there might be different levels and what these different macros are. So hopefully that helped you become clearer about the topic. And what's most important to me is that you move from being taught what to do, or being told what to do, I should say, into fully understanding what a properly formulated ketogenic diet can look like for you. So, a last note. One of the points of confusion that can happen when I explain that over time you might be eating less fat than you do at the beginning, people will often use that to say, aha, I knew high fat was a bad idea. And I just want to clarify, at no time am I suggesting a low fat diet. Even when you're dropping your fat down to closer to a 1-to-1 ratio, you're still eating close to a 65% fat diet. So I just wanted to clarify that nothing I said today should make you afraid of eating fat to make your body happy, satiated, and feel good. And at the same time, I also want to clarify that while less fat isn't better, neither is more fat for the sake of more fat. You're just looking to optimize the fueled state of your body. So thank you guys so much for joining me on this macro video, and I will see you on the flip side.